Welcome to MapleWoodian.com podcast. We have on the phone Maggie Kritzberg. How you doing, Maggie?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Good. Now, for those who don't know, you have been student government representative. You've been the student representative on the Board of Education for the last 2 years, and you're now graduated, so congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
What is your next move after graduation?
I'm going on to study at the George Washington University in Washington, D.C.
Very good. I actually had two brothers who went there, and I know they're good. Now, what is your major and study going to be there, or you don't know yet?
I'm very interested in political science and history, so I'll probably be concentrating on those two areas, but it's definitely subject to change. So. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, for those who don't know, we were just talking about this before. You have served as the student representative of the school board for the last 2 years, and you were elected. That position is elected by the entire high school, except for the outgoing seniors.
Mm-hmm.
How did you first get on 2 years ago?
So I actually got interested in it pretty close, if I remember correctly, pretty close to the time of the election. And the student rep at the time, Jonah Wolf, who was a senior, I approached him and I talked to him about it, and he was very helpful, and he has continued to be very helpful and really mentoring me. And so he helped me really get involved and get in a position where I could run for the first time. So, yeah.
And then a lot of people might think when you're a student representative, you're basically just sort of giving your opinions about a few things that are going on in the high school maybe and not really involved. But those who've been following the school board know you have a real input, and you really brought up a lot of issues of race and curriculum and how students are treated and even class schedules. What do you see in terms of what you brought to the board and why you think it was a positive for the board and for your fellow students to have you there?
Well, I think that I had a lot of time to learn, so I really tried to, with every opportunity that I could get, to really try and dive into different issues that kind of ranged from stuff having to do with the budget to issues of curriculum to issues of school atmosphere, issues that were more on the administrative level at Columbia High School, and also issues that were definitely more board-focused. So I definitely saw myself weighing in on lots of different issues because there were so many different things that interested me at the time. So I guess I tried to contribute as much as I could for issues that, of course, were directly related to students and ones that were maybe even not as much directly related, but that I thought were important to speak up on.
What do you think was the main reason you wanted to get on? Was there a certain issue or issues you wanted to handle, or was it also originally just to sort of see how things operate?
Well, I think it was definitely both. I mean, for specific issues that come to mind, one was the dress code, which was very student-focused. And, that was both an issue of the board and an issue of the schools in our district. And it concerned board policy, so something that I got involved in was helping to rewrite the board policy on the dress code and to change it so that, it was kind of, the idea of changing it was to make everybody a little bit more aware of the treatment of students and how when you enforce the dress code you do so really in a more sensitive way to students. So that was something that I worked on and that is available to be seen as board policy, but it was also kept in a very broad sense, broad context, so that could have worked their own policies. Which is kind of the purpose of board policy. It's to be broad so that schools can create their own dress codes or their own code of conduct, handbooks, that kind of thing. So that was a huge issue.
Right. I know when the dress code got some attention in the last year or two, originally at South Orange Middle, there were complaints that girls were getting unfairly treated, and even some had to go home and change. And then I know at Maplewood Middle, with the new principal there, he had a whole long list of new issues that came up. Among them, dress code, not only that targeted girls more than boys, but also wearing of headgear and hats and such, and that was, changed a little. Where did the dress code see problems at the high school?
At the time that it actually was brought up, I mean, there have always been recurring issues, I think it's fair to say, that, students have brought up that I've heard about in terms of, being certain groups being targeted, certain students being targeted, and it was really kind of important for me to speak up on that. But at the time that I really wanted to revise the dress code, it was more middle school students I was hearing from. So I wanted to really speak up on that, and I'm sure I'm going to not quote the name correctly of the movement, but a group of students at the middle school started, hashtag I'm more than a distraction or something like that. And I think that was around the time that I first started to really look at the policy. So that kind of triggered it, yeah.
And for those who don't know, what is your background before you got to the high school? Did you grow up in Maplewood or South Orange or elsewhere?
Yeah, I've grown up in South Orange my whole life, basically. So the 2 weeks after I was born, I moved out here with my parents, and my brother, who's younger than me, we've grown up here. So.
And what schools did you attend?
I attended South Mountain for elementary school, and South Orange Middle School, and then, of course, Columbia.
And anyone who did not see the reports you gave should go onto the corporate board website and check any of the last meetings. All the videos are up there, and just fast forward to where you are. I think you might have surprised some people that you really did more than just sort of update them on school happenings, that you really got involved. I know there was an issue during a lot of the racial incidents in other towns. I know a protest was held with Principal Aaron's approval, and other issues came up. What was your thought? I hear this from a lot of students there. I believe the population is more than half minority, and a lot of African American, a lot of mixed kinds of students, income as well. What were some of the issues that how would you sort of say the state of racial relations is at the high school? Because I know a lot of people were concerned it does have problems.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are some ongoing issues for sure that kind of range. It kind of depends on what you're talking about, if you know what I mean. So if you're talking specifically about school atmosphere, I think that I think that we're very lucky. Actually, we have a student body that is very both encouraged, and they encourage themselves within it to speak up and to talk about a lot of issues that go on within the student body. And I think that students really want to see that addressed moving forward, and it's an ongoing conversation that we're having. I think if you want to talk about leveling, which I know is a very sensitive subject, leveling and curriculum and opportunity for having access to APs, for example, there's definitely a lot of work to do there. And I think while some people are very positive in terms of the direction we're moving in, I think that there's still lots of frustration in terms of the opportunities that are afforded to different groups of students, or I should say all groups of students. And, there's still an achievement gap that we really need to be taking a really focused look at, and how to fix and how to work on that. So those are two main areas, but of course issues of race relations kind of are in so many parts of our school district and our school environment, and I think we're talking about that very seriously, so I'm happy about that we're talking about it.
And how do you think that things have improved in the last 2 years since you've seen how the school board handles things, and also as a student?
I definitely think students are speaking up more, which I'm very proud of. I've said this before, I'm very proud to serve these really wonderfully outspoken students who, we have so many different groups at Columbia, organizations run by students like Diversity Rocks and Power, our feminist club, and other groups who really work on, it was mentioned, I think you mentioned earlier, these student forums that were very helpful, and I definitely see more of that, and I hope to see more of that in the future, even though I'm no longer going to be there. I definitely see an improvement there. I think I also, in some ways, I think we're forced to have a more, I guess we're forced to have a more focused look at a lot of these issues because of the ACLU and OCR complaints. So I think that we're definitely moving in the right direction, hopefully, to solve a lot of those issues, because we're dealing with that right now.
Of course, what you're talking about is the ACLU complaint that minority students were not given the same promotional opportunities and the same advancement. Did you see that just as a student in reality, and have you been involved in that case at all, having to having to speak to lawyers or anything involved in the investigations behind it? Because there was a settlement, but before that there was obviously an investigation. Was it a true complaint that was valid, or did you not really see that?
Sorry, are you referring to, whether I actually saw some of those issues being prevalent in school?
Right, or even heard from other people.
There have definitely been conversations with students about unequal treatment.
Right.
I'll say that. I can't obviously speak to my own experiences, but, definitely experiences of other students have been brought up. And I think that is something that, and of course, if you want to directly refer to that complaint, that's probably where you'll get the most direct information about those specific incidents. But I think that it's very clear that there are a lot of issues to work on. I wish that these are issues that could be really solved earlier, and I think that's what a lot of people are impatient about, is that progress is slow. And so I'm hoping that in the future we'll see more progress.
Now, anyone who was at the last school board meeting that you were at, you got a rousing standing ovation and great support. The board gave you a nice goodbye plaque, framed proclamation.
Yeah.
What was your reflection on the board when you were there? Did they seem to listen to your issues or handle things correctly? And obviously you had a big change this last year with 3 new board members. We have a new superintendent coming in. You have a new principal at the high school. Did the board seem to listen to your views on the students and really take them in, or did they just kind of give it lip service?
Definitely. I think that they definitely listened to me. I think that a lot of issues that came up were more for administration at Columbia, too, in terms of, when students spoke up, it wasn't always a board issue that I was faced with. It was more of an issue of what's going on in school. So I was very lucky that the administration was so open to hearing what I had to say and definitely taking what I had to say into consideration. And I felt that my voice was definitely heard there. And, of course, that the board members, our acting superintendent, everybody really was, they all wanted to hear what was going on at Columbia and what the students had to say. So I felt very happy with how open everybody was. So, yeah.
What do you think was the biggest issue that came up in your 2 years there, whether it was a surprise and how it was handled, or something you really pushed for?
I don't know if there was one. There were definitely large issues, large problems that came up. I wouldn't say one was necessarily the biggest problem. I think something that comes up a lot, and I won't refer to specific, I guess specific cases, obviously, but something that's ongoing and has been for years is HIB, harassment, intimidation, and bullying.
Right.
And that's something that is a recurring thing. And I'm very passionate about that because it's something since day one, really, I've cared a lot about during my time on the board. And so, that's come up in various situations, and I'm just really hoping that moving forward, of course, we can take a really hard look at the culture and atmosphere in all of our schools, and how students are treated, and to make sure that there's and I think that there has been, but to continue to make sure that there's a very open atmosphere to talking about issues of bullying in our schools.
And obviously you have a new principal this year, Ms. Aaron. What's your thought on her job after 1 year? And now that you're a graduate, you can speak freely, although I think a lot of people like her.
Of course, I would say this basically since day one of her being principal, and I'll say it now, I think that she's done a fantastic job. A really phenomenal job. I think that she's an admirable person and an admirable principal, and I feel very honored and proud that I've gotten the chance to work with her on so many school issues, and I've gotten to learn a lot from her as well. So, I think she's great.
And the last year, she's had a lot, too. As we said early on, she was sort of thrown into the deep end of the pool. First, she had the teacher who was arrested, and then you had a couple lockdowns and this latest weapons issue. How do you think the school in general and the district is handled? And that falls into the harassment and bullying a little bit. I think a couple of the students were actually brought up on dismissal because under the bullying policies. Has that really been addressed properly, or people get overreacted when you have a couple lockdowns and weapons, or is that just something that might happen with such a large population?
Well, I can only speak to what I know for sure. I mean, I obviously can't comment on specific cases or incidents because that is confidential, and I don't know specific ways that certain things were really handled other than what the public knows, obviously. But I can say that I think our schools have handled it very, very well. And all things considered, we handle a lot of I guess sudden issues very well, and I think that these are prime examples of that, where we really took action in a thoughtful way, and of course in a way that I think was very appropriate. So
now, what do you? And we'll let you go in a moment. I appreciate it. We're talking to Maggie Kritzberg, the 2-year veteran school board student representative. Who's going to be taking your place? Has that election been done?
Yes, it has been. Nina Cambili will be the next student representative. So she should be sworn in, I believe, either during the July meeting or the August meeting, although that's, I think, yet to be determined. And Philip Sullivan will be the alternate student representative. So, yeah, those are the two people who will be, and mainly Nina, of course, who will be taking over this position. And I'm very excited for her to really step into this role. I think she'll do a great job.
Let me ask you just 2 more things. First of all, what do you think, having been a student at Columbia for 4 years and also been student rep, what do you think is the one positive about the school most people don't know about, and maybe one negative thing they don't know about that needs to be addressed? Let's get the positive first, because it does get a mixed image when you hear about things like lockdowns and such. But a lot of people may not hear about a lot of the great programs and graduation rate and people like you going on to really good 4-year colleges. And what should people know about it that they don't, in a good or bad way?
Yeah. I think I can say 2 things that come to mind, but a lot of people know them. Columbia is a place that is very, very warm, and the students there, the faculty there, everybody is, it's a really caring atmosphere, really caring group of people, and everybody is very open to helping one another, generally speaking, and really putting students first, and really open to talking about that. So I think it's a really good thing for people to remember about Columbia. And I think the other thing definitely is that you can get a great education there. I certainly did. And of course there's a lot of work to do in terms of providing access to those opportunities to get a great education at Columbia, but I definitely can speak to my experience and say that I had many opportunities there. I took great classes, had amazing teachers who really inspired me. And you can definitely get a fantastic education there and be prepared for the next step in your life, whether that's college or another thing that you go on to do.
Because I know there's some people come in, there's a certain fear they have. Oh, it's such a big place. I'm the newest kid on the block. How does that usually get handled? Do you feel involved? And there are also some who say, well, you can fall through the cracks if you have difficulties, or is that not the case necessarily?
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak very honestly. If you're a student who is very good at advocating for yourself and you really know who to go to very naturally in terms of people who are extremely helpful and helpful in guiding you, then I think that Columbia is definitely a great place. And there's a lot of work. This is something that I try to talk a lot about, both on and off the record, that if you're a student who maybe needs that extra help or needs someone to be reaching out more, Columbia can be a great place, but I think that we have a lot of work to do in terms of providing that support for students. So I think that it's true that there is that fear going in that you will fall through the cracks, and I remember that fear actually entering such a big place. But the opportunities are there. It's just in terms of how students reach for them and how they reach back for students.
Then what would you say is the biggest negative that people might not know about or challenge that the school has?
I think it's kind of a cliche, but providing opportunity and providing equity and opportunity, I think, for students in terms of I think that we have probably more than most high schools amazing extracurriculars, amazing classes. The number of APs you can take at Columbia is enormous, and the the number of teachers who have so many different and interesting backgrounds that really contribute to how they teach in the classroom. And I think that the number of organizations and support groups for students are tremendous. But I think that in terms of the instruction that students get in the classroom every single day, although, again, I've had great classes, there are definitely some where we need improvement. We need to see greater challenge and rigor, not just for students in, I guess I'll say lower level classes, but preparation for students. And this is less about Columbia because, I really feel that Columbia is a great, strong place, but definitely preparation in elementary and middle schools, I think, is a big area where we need to be concerned about seeing our students get ready for high school and making sure that they're ready. So.
Okay, well,
yeah.
We thank you for your time. Again, we've been talking to Maggie Kritzberg, the outgoing student rep on the school board. And again, as you have noted, I think the school board members really took your input, which I was glad to see at the meetings I went to. And now you're heading off to George Washington University, and hopefully more public service to come. But we appreciate your time, and good luck in the future.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
No problem. Be well.
Okay, thank you. Bye.